On my third wedding anniversary, my best friend Eva sent me a video. In the video, she and my husband Marcus were locked in a passionate embrace, in the master bedroom of our marital home. Immediately after, she sent another message, "You still don't know, do you?" Marcus said he loves hearing me call him honey when I'm beneath him. In my previous life, when I saw this, I had a complete breakdown, went insane, and was ultimately pushed off a high-rise building by Marcus during an argument. Given a second chance at life, I watched the couple's passionate antics in the video and calmly dialed a number. "Hello, is this Leo, the paparazzi? I have some major dirt, guaranteed to make headlines. Are you interested?" The video was shot from a tricky angle, as if hidden within an ornament on the nightstand. Eva's face, once so familiar to me, was flushed with a deep crimson. And the man on top of her was my husband of 3 years, Marcus. The setting was even our marital home. That ornately carved four-poster bed was one I had personally chosen. Even the dim bedside lamp was a unique find I'd brought back from Italy. At the end of the video, Eva even flashed a V4 victory at the camera. In my previous life, when I saw this video, my blood had boiled. Like a madwoman, I smashed everything in the house, then stormed into Vance like a shrew, and slapped Marcus across the face in front of everyone. I demanded to know why he had betrayed me. He merely looked at me with cold indifference, as if I were a hysterical lunatic making a scene. "Grace, have you caused enough trouble?" Our argument continued from the company to our home. Finally, on the rooftop, he pushed me off by accident while trying to break free from my grasp. As my body plummeted, I saw panic in his eyes. And behind him, Eva's triumphant smile. Given a second chance at life, I was no longer the Grace who only knew how to cry and complain. I closed the video and tapped on Eva's newly updated profile picture. It was a selfie of her, wearing the global limited edition haute couture gown that Marcus had given me. A blatant display of triumph against me. Immediately after, her message popped up. "Grace, Marcus said he loves hearing me call him honey when I'm beneath him. He said you're like a lifeless doll, dull and unresponsive, and that only with me does he feel like a real man. Oh, and by the way, today marks our 5th anniversary together. That's even before you two got married." I looked at the taunting messages, didn't reply, but calmly saved all the chat logs and videos. Then, I dialed a number that had been stored in my contacts for a long time but had never been called. The person on the other end seemed surprised, their voice tentative. "Mrs. Grace?" I chuckled softly. "Leo, it's been a while. Leo, the top paparazzi in the business." I figured it was at the request of Marcus's rivals. In my previous life, Leo had offered a high price to dig up dirt on Marcus from me. I had ruthlessly refused him. I had naively believed I needed to maintain my husband's perfect image. Looking back now, it's laughable. I have some major dirt on Marcus, guaranteed to make headlines. Are you interested? Leo's breathing suddenly quickened. "Mrs. Grace, are you serious? Marcus, CEO of Vance, is having an affair with rising star Eva. I have both videos and photos. Is that enough?" There was a dead silence on the other end of the line. After a long pause, Leo finally found his voice, stammering with excitement. "Enough. More than enough. Mrs. Grace, don't worry, I've been in this business for years, I know the rules. I'll make sure it's handled perfectly for you. I'll send the files to your email in 5 minutes. As for payment, you decide." I hung up the phone and glanced at the clock on the wall. 8 p.m. Marcus should be home around now. Marcus didn't return until 10 o'clock that night. He seemed to have just escaped a drinking party, carrying a faint scent of alcohol and a subtle trace of women's perfume. It was Dior J'adore, Eva's usual fragrance. In my previous life, I had a huge fight with him over that scent. But he had casually brushed it off, saying it was from a business dinner, an accidental transfer. Seeing me on the sofa, he seemed surprised and casually tossed his suit jacket aside. "Why didn't Martha cook tonight?" I walked over, smiling, and said, "Today is our 3rd wedding anniversary, so I personally cooked your favorite dishes for you." Marcus's expression softened slightly. He reached out, squeezed my cheek, his tone carrying a hint of condescending tenderness. "You've worked hard. The company's been busy lately, I forgot." "It's fine," I said, still smiling, though my eyes were utterly cold. "As long as you remember to come home." In my previous life, whenever I said things like this, all I got in return was a perfunctory hug and a "you're always the most understanding." But the price of being understanding was eternal damnation. At the dinner table, the atmosphere was somewhat subdued. Marcus ate distractedly, his phone screen lighting up intermittently. I glanced over, the contact was saved as M. As he replied to the message, a faint smile, one he didn't even notice himself, touched the corners of his lips. My heart felt a prick, as if pierced by a needle, but it quickly settled back into calm. After all these years, how could I suddenly be completely indifferent? But it didn't matter. Soon, he wouldn't be smiling at all. Ding dong, his phone chimed with a special notification. It was a breaking news alert from major media outlets. #Vance CEO Marcus's affair with rising Eva, intimate leaked #hashtag high profile, fairytale #hashtag Eva, the Vance CEO's marriage #blinding headlines, one after another, instantly monopolized the entire screen. Each trending topic was followed by a deep red trending icon. Marcus's face drained of color, inch by inch. He suddenly looked up at me, his eyes filled with shock. Grace, was this you're doing? I put down my chopsticks, elegantly wiped my mouth with a napkin, and met his gaze, smiling gently and innocently. Marcus, what are you talking about? I don't understand. You're still pretending. He violently swept the dishes off the table. The sound of porcelain shattering was sharp and grating. Hot soup splattered onto the back of my hand, stinging fiercely. Yet I didn't even flinch. What was this pain compared to the agony of my previous life, when my body was crushed? I told you it wasn't me. Couldn't Eva have leaked it herself? I stood up, looking down at him. Maybe she's trying to get ahead? Just then, his phone started ringing frantically. His assistant, Vance PR department, and Grandpa. Calls poured in from all of them. He fumbled to answer, roaring into the phone, "Shut it down. Get rid of that trending topic, no matter the cost." He hung up, his eyes bloodshot as he glared at me. Grace, what exactly are you trying to do? Do you realize the consequences of this? The family's stock will plummet, and the entire company will be affected. So what? I sneered. If the stock falls, it's your loss, Marcus, not mine. If the company is affected, it's due to your mismanagement, and you brought it upon yourself. You're crazy. He lunged at me, grabbing my throat and pinning me against the cold wall. A wave of suffocation immediately washed over me. I looked at his distorted face, identical to how he looked when he pushed me off the building in my previous life. For one woman, you're willing to ruin me, ruin everything we have? His voice was filled with disappointment and anguish, as if I were the one who had betrayed him. I managed to force a smile. Marcus, there's no us between us anymore. Not since the moment you and Eva rolled around on our matrimonial bed. His grip tightened further. Just as I thought I would die by his hand again, the doorbell of the villa rang, completely out of place. Marcus's movements froze. I seized the chink. To push him away forcefully, gasping for air. From outside the door, an anxious woman's voice called out, "Marcus! Marcus, open the door! Are you all right?" It was Eva. She actually dared to show up here. Marcus's face instantly turned ghastly. He was in a complete mess right now, and I assumed a swarm of reporters had already gathered outside, having caught wind of the scandal. Eva showing up now was like adding fuel to the fire. "Tell her to leave," he growled, running a frustrated hand through his hair. I adjusted my disheveled collar, walked to the video doorbell, and pressed the talk button. On the screen, Eva was crying a river, her makeup smeared, looking utterly pathetic. "Marcus, I know you must be very angry right now, and it's all my fault. I shouldn't have sent those things to provoke Grace. Can you please let me in? I want to explain and apologize to her in person." As she spoke, she subtly glanced out of the corner of her eye towards a hidden camera. What a meticulously manipulative innocent act. In my previous life, she used this same pitiful demeanor to make everyone believe I was a jealous madwoman. I chuckled softly and opened the door. Eva hadn't expected me to actually open the door. Her expression showed a flicker of surprise, but she quickly reverted to her fragile, innocent act, lifting her skirt as if to rush in. "Marcus!" I stepped sideways, blocking her path and shielding her from the countless flashing cameras outside the door. "Miss Hayes," I said, smiling. My voice was low, but loud enough for the reporters at the door to hear clearly. "My husband is not available to see visitors right now. Anything you have to say, you can say to me." Eva bit her lip, and tears instantly welled up in her eyes. "Grace, I know you hate me, but Marcus and I truly love each other. We've known each other for 5 years, and if it weren't for an arranged marriage, I should be the one standing by his side right now." "Oh, really?" I raised an eyebrow. "But I am the one standing here now. As long as I don't give up the position of Mrs. Grace, it will never be yours. You." Eva's face turned pale with anger, but she had to maintain her innocent persona, so she could only shed tears of grievance. "Grace, what do you want?" Marcus also emerged. The reporter's camera flashes instantly became blinding. Perfect. This was exactly the effect I wanted. I looked at that deplorable couple before me, so pathetic in their display, and my smile deepened. I don't want anything, I said, shrugging with an innocent expression. I just want to remind Mr. Vance that the person you're protecting right now is the one you're having an affair with. In front of all these media outlets, are you trying to confirm your guilt? Marcus's face turned a mottled green and white, a truly spectacular sight. Only then did he realize he had let his emotions get the better of him. He tried to distance himself from Eva, but she had already grabbed his arm and was crying even louder. Marcus, don't push me away. I know it's all my fault, don't be angry with me. The reporters were like a frenzy, their camera shutters clicking rapidly. Mr. Vance, what is your relationship with Ms. Hayes? Do you intend to divorce Mrs. Grace? Ms. Hayes, aren't you ashamed of interfering in someone else's marriage? Marcus's PR team finally arrived, exerting tremendous effort to separate the reporters and escort him and Eva, looking disheveled, into a car. The car sped away, leaving behind a complete mess. I closed the door, shutting out all the commotion from outside. The living room was in utter disarray, as if it had just survived a war. The scalded spot on the back of my hand had already blistered, stinging fiercely. Yet I seemed not to feel it, calmly picking up the shattered pieces from the floor. Tonight was just the beginning. Marcus, Eva, all the pain you inflicted upon me in my previous life, I will make you repay it 100-fold, 1,000-fold. The next morning, Vance stock price, predictably, hit its daily limit down. The hashtag Vance loses in market value hashtag firmly held the top spot on financial news. As I leisurely sipped my coffee and admired my handiwork, an unfamiliar number called. It was a call from Vance. On the other end was my perpetually haughty mother-in-law, Eleanor. Her voice was brimming with suppressed fury. Grace, get yourself back here right now. I leisurely finished the last sip of my coffee before slowly responding. Mom, is there something you need? You still have the nerve to call me Mom? Look at what you've done. You've completely shamed our Vance family. Eleanor roared on the other end. Mom, you're mistaken, I chuckled. The one who brought shame is your son who couldn't keep it in his pants, not me, the victim. You bitch. You're trying to ruin Marcus, ruin our Vance family. I'm just taking back what belongs to me. I order you to immediately hold a press conference and tell everyone that the video was fabricated, that you deliberately framed Marcus out of revenge. I felt as if I'd heard the funniest joke imaginable. Mom, are you losing your mind? You want me to clear the names of that deplorable couple? Do you think that's possible? On the other end, Eleanor was so furious she couldn't speak for a long moment. I could only hear her heavy breathing. Grace, don't forget your brother's company still needs investment from the Vance family. If you dare disobey, believe me, one word from me can bankrupt your brother and make the sterling disappear from Westwood. It was the same old trick. In my previous life, she used my brother Daniel's company to threaten me, forcing me to swallow my anger and not fight back. But now, things were different. The first thing I did after returning to this life was to liquidate all my private assets and shares, quietly plugging the financial holes in Daniel's company, and even helping him secure several large overseas deals. Now, the sterling no longer had to bow to the Vance family's whims. Mom, you're welcome to try, I said casually. Let's see if the sterling disappears first, or if Vance stock price hits rock bottom. With that, I decisively hung up the phone. Hearing the dial tone, Eleanor was so furious she smashed her phone. As for me, I changed into a suitable business suit, applied exquisite makeup, and drove to the sterling. When I arrived, Daniel was in a high-level meeting. Seeing my sudden appearance, he was somewhat surprised but immediately adjourned the meeting and invited me into his office. Sis, why are you here? The family. They didn't give you any trouble, did they? Daniel's face was etched with worry. With the news being such a big sensation, there was no way he didn't know. I shook my head and handed him a document. These are the transfer agreements for all my real estate and shares. Take them to a lawyer to process. Daniel's face fell in shock. Sis, what are you doing? Are you divorcing Marcus? Yes. But what about the company? If the Vance family withdraws their investment? I cut him off. Don't worry, the Vance family can't withdraw their investment. Not only that, I'm going to acquire shares in Vance. Daniel's eyes widened like saucers. Sis, are you crazy? Acquire holdings? Where would we get that much money? Don't worry about the money, I said, looking at him with a firm gaze. Daniel looked at me, and despite his many doubts, he finally nodded heavily. I trust you. Ever since I was little, my younger brother has always listened to me most. That's also why I'm willing to help him. In my previous life, after I died, he tried to avenge me, launching a futile battle. He was eventually forced into exile by Marcus, his whereabouts unknown. In this life, I not only plan to protect him but also to take him with me to an unmatched peak. After leaving the Sterling, I arranged to meet Leo at a discreet cafe. When I arrived, he was already there. Seeing me, he immediately stood up and respectfully greeted, Mrs. Vance. Oh, no, Ms. Grace. I pushed a thick envelope across the table to him. This is your payment. Leo opened it and glanced inside, his eyes widening. Ms. Grace, you're too generous, this. Take it, I said, lifting my teacup and gently blowing on the steaming liquid. This time, I need your help. Leo immediately understood, put the envelope away, and said, Ms. Grace, just give the word. Leo, will go through fire and water for you, no matter what. I want you to keep an eye on Marcus and Eva for me. I need to know their every move. Also, help me investigate all of Vance's projects from the past 5 years, especially those with irregularities. The more detailed the information, the better. Leo's face showed a hint of difficulty. Ms. Grace, getting internal information on Vance isn't easy. I know it's difficult, I said, setting down my teacup and looking directly at him. But I thought you'd be quite happy to see Vance collapse, wouldn't you? Leo, as the head of the paparazzi, was able to release dirt on Marcus so brazenly. I was certain he had someone backing him, someone who had a grudge against Marcus. Leo's smile vanished, and after a moment, he agreed, Ms. Grace, rest assured, I'll make sure you have everything you need within 3 days. Having settled things with Leo, I felt quite pleased as I prepared to leave. Just as I walked out of the cafe, I saw a familiar Bentley parked by the roadside. The car window rolled down, revealing Marcus's gloomy face. Get in the car, he commanded. I pretended not to hear him and walked straight ahead. But he suddenly got out of the car, grabbed my wrist. Grace, how long are you going to keep this up? Keep this up? I pulled my hand free and looked at him coldly. Marcus, in your eyes, am I just being unreasonable? He took a deep breath, desperately suppressing his anger, and softened his tone slightly. Gracie, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have been with Eva. But after all these years of our relationship, are you really going to destroy everything we have over such a minor issue? A minor issue? I was almost laughing in anger. Marcus, you call marital infidelity a minor issue? It was just an accident, he hastily explained. I was drunk that day, and Eva was just there to comfort me, and you comforted each other on my bed? I interrupted him, each word a dagger to his heart. Marcus, stop insulting my intelligence. You and she, it's been 5 years, hasn't it? His face instantly turned ashen. He probably never expected me to know even that. Did she tell you? A flicker of ruthlessness crossed Marcus's eyes. That woman, she's utterly useless. Seeing his expression, I knew that the provocative messages Eva sent me weren't at his instruction. In fact, he might not have known about them at all. These two weren't as deeply in love as they made it seem. They were simply using each other. Who told me isn't important. I took a step back, widening the distance between us. What's important, Marcus, is that we should get a divorce. I won't agree. He refused without hesitation. Grace, I won't divorce you. The position of Mrs. Grace will always be yours. Heh, I sneered. You're afraid a divorce will damage your reputation and affect Vance's stock price, aren't you? With his true intentions exposed, his face grew even uglier. I know you're still angry, he said, lowering his stance, trying to placate me. Gracie, you can ask for any compensation you want. Designer bags, jewelry, luxury cars, or houses? Just name it, and I'll give it to you. He thought I was still the same woman who could be easily bought off with material things. What I want, you can't give me, I said, looking at him, every word deliberate. I want you, and Vance, to both be utterly ruined. His pupils constricted sharply, and the last trace of warmth vanished from his face. Grace, do you have to be so ruthless? You forced my hand. We part ways on bad terms. Sure enough, the next day, numerous articles whitewashing his image appeared online. Without exception, they all pointed the finger at Eva, claiming she was a deliberate seductress, and Marcus was merely confused for a moment, making a mistake any man might make. At the same time, many photos of Marcus and me from when we were deeply in love were released, creating the illusion that he still loved me deeply but had been misled by a scheming individual. There were even internet trolls stirring up sentiment in the comment sections, claiming I was overreacting, unforgiving, and not magnanimous enough. What man doesn't stray? Mr. Vance knows he made a mistake, Mrs. Grace should just forgive him. Exactly, destroying your own family over the other woman, it's not worth it. I don't think Grace is any good either, she must have issues if her husband has to look elsewhere. Watching these dishonest remarks, I found them simply ludicrous. Marcus's PR team still had some tricks up their sleeve. It was just a pity they ran into me. I ignored the online chatter and instead called my legal team directly, filing for divorce. And I demanded a division of marital assets. Marcus and I hadn't signed a prenup, so legally, I could take half of his fortune. As soon as this news broke, Vance's stock price plummeted again. Eleanor was so enraged she ended up in the hospital. Marcus was frantic and finally couldn't sit still, so he proactively asked to meet me. The meeting was set in a private room at a private. When I arrived, he was already there, a divorce agreement laid out before him. Grace, you win. He looked much more haggard, with dark circles under his eyes. Sign it, and I'll give you all the other assets, besides Vance shares. I picked up the agreement and looked it over. The listed properties, luxury cars, and jewelry amounted to a significant sum, enough for me to live comfortably for the rest of my life. In my previous life, I might have been tempted. Edition. But now, these were nothing but a pile of scrap metal to me. I pushed the agreement back. I told you, what I want are shares in Vance. You wish? He instantly flared up. Grace, don't push your luck. Giving you all this is already out of consideration for our past as husband and wife. Consideration? I scoffed. Whatever consideration we had ran out the moment you and Eva rolled around in bed. Are you determined to destroy us both? It's not about destroying us both, I corrected him. It's about the fish dying, but the net remaining intact. What I wanted was never just a simple divorce. What I wanted was the entire Vance to be buried with him. Our negotiations once again reached an impasse. Just then, the private room door was suddenly pushed open from the outside. Eva, wearing a white dress, rushed in, crying a river. Marcus! She lunged at Marcus, grabbing his arm. You promised me, you'd marry me. Seeing her, Marcus's face instantly turned ashen, and he violently flung her hand away. What are you doing here? Who told you to come? Get out. I won't. Eva cried, shaking her head. Marcus, everyone online is cursing me. Why is your PR team shifting all the blame onto me? We truly love each other. Didn't you say you'd marry me once you'd swallowed up the sterling? Her words were packed with information. I narrowed my eyes and looked at Marcus. So, this was his true purpose in marrying me. To use the sterling's influence to solidify his position in Vance, and then, in turn, to swallow up the sterling. What a move, pulling the rug out from under him. Marcus, you truly are more ruthless than I imagined. Marcus's face could no longer be described merely as unpleasant. He probably never dreamed that his gentle, cherished confidant would stab him in the back at the most critical moment. What nonsense are you spouting? He interrupted Eva exasperatedly, his eyes full of warning, but seemed not to notice, continuing her tearful complaints. I'm not spout. ING nonsense. You clearly said Grace was just a pretty face with no substance, and that the sterling would eventually be yours. With every word she uttered, Marcus's face grew a shade paler. My heart, however, remained calm, without a single ripple. I no longer felt heartbroken by his callousness. I merely watched the unfolding farce with a cold gaze, observing their ugly squabble. Enough. Marcus finally lost his temper and slapped Eva across the face. The sharp sound of the slap echoed particularly loudly in the quiet private room. Eva fell to the floor from the blow, covering her face, looking at him in disbelief. You hit me? I hit you, you fool. Marcus was trembling with rage. Who told you to take matters into your own hands? Do you realize you've ruined my entire plan? Eva's tears fell even more profusely. I just love you too much. I was afraid you'd abandon me. Love me? Marcus laughed as if he'd heard the funniest joke imaginable. He knelt down, gripping Eva's chin, his eyes terrifyingly sinister. What you love is the position of Mrs. Grace, the wealth and glory of the Vance family, isn't it? I'm not. Shut up. Marcus shoved her away, stood up, straightened his disheveled collar, and regained his arrogant demeanor. He looked at me, his eyes complex. Grace, what she said just now was nonsense, don't believe it. I smiled. Even at this point, he still tried to argue. Marcus, I stood up, walked to him, and looked him straight in the eyes. Do you think I still believe you? His apple bobbed, but he said nothing. You know what? My biggest regret isn't loving you, I said, looking at him. It's not leaving you with nothing the first time you betrayed me. With that, I stopped looking at him, turned, and left the private room. Behind me, I heard Eva's heart-wrenching wails and Marcus's suppressed roars of anger. I knew they were finished. And my revenge was just beginning. Leo's efficiency was remarkable. On the third day, he handed me an encrypted USB drive. Inside were files on all of Vance's projects from the past 5 years, especially several overseas mergers and acquisitions. The accounts were chaotic, fund flows unclear, with clear suspicions of money laundering and tax evasion. This was enough to land Marcus in prison for the rest of his life. But I had no intention of handing these over just yet. The cat and mouse game is more fun when played slowly. I wanted him to watch his hard-built business empire crumble and disintegrate, little by little. I wanted him to taste the same despair I had endured in my previous life. I sent one of the anonymous materials regarding Vance's tax evasion to the tax authorities. Then, I simply settled back, ready to watch the show. Sure enough, the next day, the tax department established a special investigation team and conspicuously moved into Vance. As soon as the news broke, Vance's already precarious stock price worsened, hitting an all-time low below its issue price. Panic spread among the shareholders, who rushed to sell their shares. Meanwhile, I instructed Daniel to seize the opportunity to quietly acquire these discarded shares on the secondary market. Marcus was in a frantic state, begging for help everywhere, but met with rejection at every turn. It was a case of kicking him while he's down. Those partners who used to flatter him now avoided him like the plague. He finally understood the coldness of human nature. That evening, I received an unexpected call. It was Edward, the patriarch of the Vance family. This old man, once a titan in Westwood, now had a voice filled with weariness and helplessness. "Gracie, let's meet." I didn't refuse. The meeting took place at Vance. The historic estate, with its antique charm, was just as it had been when I first met him. Only, times had changed, and so had the people. Edward sat in the ornate armchair, fiddling with a string of worry beads, looking much older than the last time I'd seen him. "Sit," he gestured to the chair opposite him. I sat as instructed. A servant brought tea, then silently withdrew. Only the two of us remained in the tea room. "Gracie, back off." Edward was the first to break the silence. "I know Marcus wronged you, but the Vance family cannot fall. Whatever compensation you want, I can give it to you. Just withdraw the lawsuit and hand over the evidence you have." "Grandpa," I said calmly, looking at him, "what if I told you that what I want is for Marcus to leave with nothing?" Edward's hand, fiddling with the worry beads, paused. He looked up, a sharp glint in his cloudy eyes. "Gracie, don't burn all your bridges." I chuckled. "I don't care about the future." Edward's face darkened completely. "Do you really think you and your good-for-nothing brother can bring down the Vance family?" Edward's voice carried a hint of disdain. "Grace, you're too naive." "Whether I'm naive or not, you'll soon find out," I said, lifting my teacup and taking a delicate sip. "Aren't you afraid I'll make sure neither you nor your brother ever leave Westwood?" His words were laced with an undisguised threat. I set down my teacup and smiled. "Grandpa, you're old." I stood up, looking down at him. "Westwood is no longer an era where you can rule everything with an iron fist. Do you think I would dare come here without any preparation?" From my bag, I took out another document and placed it before him. "These are the proofs that Marcus used offshore shell companies to transfer Vance assets. I believe the federal would be very interested." Edward's pupils constricted sharply. He picked up the document with trembling hands, and the more he read, the paler his face became. Where did you get all this?" "You don't need to know." I looked at him. "You just need to know that if I wished it, the Vance family could be eternally damned at any moment." "What exactly do you want?" "It's simple," I said coldly, my smile gone. "I want Marcus to leave with nothing. And to hold a press conference to publicly apologize to me." "Impossible." Edward refused without a second thought. "Making him leave with nothing and publicly apologize? That would be worse than killing him." "Then let him die," I said with an indifferent shrug. "You." Edward, shaking with anger, pointed at me, unable to speak for a long moment. "Grandpa, my patience is limited." I picked up my bag, preparing to leave. "If I don't see the results I want by 8 a.m. tomorrow, this document will appear exactly where it needs to." With that, I turned and left Vance without looking back. I knew Edward would compromise. He might have other grandsons, but the Vance family's century-old legacy was unique. Sure enough, at 7:50 a.m. the next day, Marcus's apology statement was front-page news across all major media outlets. In the video, he wore a black suit, his face haggard, eyes vacant, as he read the apology script word for word into the camera. He admitted to infidelity during our marriage, acknowledged betraying me, and begged for my forgiveness. He looked like a disgraced man. Soon after, my lawyer received the signed divorce papers from him. He renounced all his assets, choosing to leave with nothing. Westwood was in an uproar. No one had expected this high-profile divorce to conclude in such a manner. Meanwhile, Eva wasn't faring well either. After her role as the homewrecker came to light, major brands swiftly released statements terminating their partnerships with Eva. The TV series she was filming hastily replaced her, and all her scenes were completely cut. Several companies she invested in also saw their stock plummet and suffered heavy losses due to her scandal. Overnight, she transformed from a red-hot rising star into a pariah, universally condemned. Unwilling to accept her fate, claiming she too was a victim, misled by Marcus's affections. Unfortunately, netizens weren't buying it. The comments section was filled with insults and mockery aimed at her. Now she's playing the victim? Where was that humility when she was brazenly destroying someone else's family? Serves her right. That's what happens to the other woman. Get out of the entertainment industry. Eva was completely blacklisted online, her career utterly ruined. She called me, pleading me over the phone to let her go. Grace, I know I was wrong, I truly do. Please, have mercy, give me a way out. A way out? I sneered. When you sent me that video, did you think about leaving me a way out? When you and Marcus drove me to the brink, did you think about leaving me a way out? She was speechless at my questions. Eva, all of this is your own doing. I hung up and blocked her number. Mercy towards an enemy is cruelty to oneself. This was a lesson I learned with my life. With these matters handled, I could finally breathe a sigh of relief. With my help, Daniel's company was back on track, even showing signs of becoming a new powerhouse in Westwood. And I had become the largest shareholder of Sterling. I thought my revenge was complete. But I hadn't expected Marcus to be so unwilling to let go. That day, as I left the company, a black van blocked my path. Several burly men got out, and without a word, tied me up and pulled me into the vehicle. I didn't resist. Because I saw Marcus in the driver's seat. His eyes, which once captivated me so completely, were now filled with a wild hatred. Grace, you didn't expect to see me again so soon, did you? He watched me, bound hand and foot in the rearview mirror, a grotesque smile on his face. What do you want? I asked calmly. What do I want? He burst out laughing. To take you to a nice place, of course. He started the car and drove towards the winding mountain road outside the city. Watching the scenery rush past outside the window, I had a bad feeling. The car stopped at the edge of a cliff on the mountaintop. Marcus dragged me out of the car and roughly shoved me towards the cliff edge. The mountain wind was strong, whipping my hair wildly around. Below me was a bottomless abyss. A scene eerily similar to my previous life. Grace, aren't you so clever? So good at scheming? Marcus stood behind me, his voice filled with malicious glee. Did you calculate that you'd die here? If you kill me, you won't get away with it either. I looked at the bottomless cliff, feeling no fear in my heart. Run? Why would I run? He laughed even more manically. Do you think I'm still the glorious CEO Vance? I have nothing now, my life is worthless. To drag you down to hell with me, it's worth it. He took a step closer to me. You know what? My biggest regret wasn't the affair, he whispered into my ear, in a voice only we could hear. It was not strangling you outright that night. I smiled. Marcus, you're truly pathetic. On the verge of death, and you can still smile? He seemed enraged by my smile, and his hand shot out to grip my neck. The sensation of choking returned. Just as I thought I was about to relive the tragedy of my previous life, blinding headlights suddenly pierced the darkness from down the mountain, immediately followed by the shrill wail of sirens. Marcus's face instantly contorted. He stared in disbelief at the police cars speeding up the mountain, then looked at me. You called the police? I managed a difficult smile. The moment he tied me up and forced me into the car, the smartwatch on my wrist had automatically activated its emergency alert system, pinpointing our location in real time. Marcus, I looked at him. I told you, times have changed. He froze, his eyes filled with despair. The police quickly surrounded the area. Marcus, you're surrounded. Release the hostage immediately. Marcus looked at me, a flicker of hesitation in his eyes. I knew he wanted to drag me down with him. But just a second before he could act, a familiar figure rushed out of a police car. It was Arthur, my senior from college, and Westwood's most promising young lawyer. In my previous life, he had confessed his feelings for me, but I rejected him for the sake of a family marriage alliance. After I died, it was he who, despite the Vance family's power, relentlessly pushed to clear my name. But in the end, nothing came of it. Marcus, don't do anything rash. Arthur's voice was filled with anxiety. Marcus saw him and clung to him like a lifeline. Arthur, you came just in time. Quick, tell them this is all a misunderstanding. Grace wanted to come here herself, it has nothing to do with me. He still tried to argue. He truly never changed. Arthur ignored him, looking at me instead, his eyes full of concern. Gracie, don't be afraid. The moment I saw Arthur, the tension I'd been holding in my nerves finally eased a little. Arthur, I whispered. Seeing ignore him, Marcus completely lost it. He tightened his grip on my neck and roared at the police and Arthur, don't come any closer. If you take another step, I'll take her down with me. The situation reached a stalemate. Arthur raised his hands, signaling he meant no harm, and slowly walked towards us. Marcus, calm down. It's not too late to stop now. Attempted kidnapping will get you a few years at most. But if someone dies, your life will truly be over. I'm already finished. Marcus's emotions surged. It's all this bitch's fault. She ruined everything for me. If I can't have a good life, neither can she. With that, he moved to drag me towards the cliff edge to jump. At that critical moment, Arthur suddenly yelled at me, Gracie, duck. I instinctively obeyed. Bang, a gunshot echoed, piercing the silent night. I felt the hand gripping my throat instantly release. Marcus's body slumped softly. A bullet hole had appeared on his forehead. It was a sniper. I was safe. Arthur rushed over and pulled me into his embrace, his body trembling slightly. It's okay, it's all over now. The familiar scent of fresh grass enveloped me. Leaning into his arms, the pent-up grievances and lingering fear that weight on my heart finally poured out. It was the first time I'd cried since my rebirth. Not for Marcus, but from the sheer relief of surviving, and the overwhelming feeling of being cherished. Marcus was dead. Attempted kidnapping, armed resistance to arrest, shot on sight. The news didn't cause much of a stir in Westwood. No one cared about the fate of a disgraced man. The family assets were also seized for crimes like tax evasion and illegal asset transfers. I certainly never said I'd forgive him just because he apologized. Edward's hair turned white overnight, he suffered a stroke from anger, and was paralyzed, destined to spend the rest of his life in a hospital bed. Eva's fate was no better. After being blacklisted online, she racked up massive debts. To repay them, she had to entertain those sleazy rich businessmen. On one occasion, she was caught red-handed by a businessman's wife, stripped naked, beaten half to death, and left on the street. That video went viral online. She became the laughingstock of the internet, eventually suffered a mental breakdown, and was committed to a psychiatric hospital. Truly, karma's a bitch. With help, I completely liquidated the Vance family's assets and successfully acquired Vance. Sterling also soared to become Westwood's largest enterprise. Daniel and I became Westwood's new legends. The dust had settled. As for a second marriage, I'll think about that later. For now, things were perfectly fine. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments section. Feel free to share your views, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.